The man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And the neck can make the head move whatever way she wants. And it determines which way the head will turn, because a wise husband will listen to a wise wife. He will.
So Erika Kirk actually had 2 boyfriends within the 5 years before meeting Charlie Kirk. So why lie about this? Interesting. But there's also another boyfriend. His name is Tyler Massey, and she dated him in 2015. Here we have them doing Fashion Week in Phoenix together.
Erika Kirk just got caught on camera saying the exact thing people have been whispering about for a while, and it's raising a lot of eyebrows. In a previously removed clip, she openly described her past relationships as transactional, almost like they were based on exchanges rather than real connection. Then she used that wife is the neck, husband is the head idea, basically saying the wife directs everything. And she said it while already married to Charlie, sounding way too excited about being in that position. And this didn't suddenly start with Charlie either. When you look back, there's a pattern that some people are now connecting, especially with her earlier claims about staying out of relationships for years. That's where the bigger question comes in. Was Erika simply focused on status and opportunity, or was there something more calculated going on behind the scenes? And considering everything that later unfolded around Charlie, people are now wondering who really had influence in that situation. Then this clip from the 2021 Good Things Women's Conference in California pops up, and it changes the whole conversation. During her talk, the moment she brings up Charlie, instead of sounding emotional or personal, she casually jokes about upgrading. And that moment alone had people pausing the video and replaying it. Because let's be honest, saying you upgraded your last name doesn't sound natural. Even as a joke, it comes off more like a business move than a relationship, and it doesn't stop there.
I was living in New York, the types of relationships that I would have that were work-related were very transactional. In LA, it was like, hey, nice to meet you, but what are you gonna do for me? One yes closer to being on the silver screen,
Because she continues by describing her previous relationship in a way that again sounds more transactional than personal. What makes this stand out even more is that Erika has said multiple times she never wanted attention or the spotlight. But this clip tells a very different story. It shows someone comfortable on stage, speaking confidently, and framing relationships in a way that feels very strategic rather than emotional. Then there's that head and neck comparison she borrowed, explaining how the wife guides the husband's direction. On its own, it might sound like a common metaphor people use, but in this context, it hits differently, especially when you watch her reaction right after saying it, because the moment she realizes how it might sound, her tone shifts fast and she starts getting defensive. Now, if this came from just anyone, people might brush it off as a poor choice of words, but this is Erika. And that's why it's getting so much attention. There have already been moments in the past where her timeline and statements didn't fully line up, including when she strongly claimed she hadn't been in a relationship for 5 years before meeting Charlie. Then the internet started digging, and that's when things really shifted. People began finding receipts that didn't match the story at all. One of the first names that popped up was Cabot Phillips, the guy known for that pizza tattoo, and that alone had people questioning everything. But it didn't stop there, because more connections started coming out fast. New details surfaced showing Erika was also linked to basketball player Josh Harrelson and reality TV personality Joe Lum during that same 5-year period. She said she wasn't dating anyone, and Joe being from Arizona, just like Erika, only added more curiosity about how those connections even started. There are multiple photos and clips of them together, and they don't look casual at all.
My name is Erika Kirk. I am married to the unbelievable husband of mine, Charles Kirk. Charlie. So last time I was here, I was a Franzwe. Now I upgraded my last name to a Kirk.
They look close, like a real couple. There's even footage of Erika handling a rifle, while Joe stands right next to her. And that moment alone had people replaying it again and again. It wasn't just one appearance or one meetup. It looked like something ongoing. And then another clip shows up, this time from New York City in 2016. Erika is out partying, drinking, and fully in the mix, which directly clashes with her earlier claims that she wasn't drinking at all during that time and was living through her roommate instead. That contrast is what really got people talking. When you line all of this up, it paints a completely different picture. Instead of staying out of relationships, it looks like she was meeting new people, traveling, and building connections across different spaces. From music videos to nightlife scenes, everything starts to connect in a way that people didn't expect. There are also reports that she got close to Tyler Strange from the band Emerson Drive after appearing in one of their videos. And after that, attention shifts again to Josh Harrelson, showing that this pattern didn't slow down at all. And from what people are saying, he wasn't even the only athlete in the picture either. She was also linked to Joseph Tyler Massey, a former pro baseball player, and their connection looked serious. They did couple-style photo shoots, gave interviews together, and Erika even referred to him as her incredible boyfriend at the time. That doesn't sound like someone staying out of relationships, it sounds like someone fully involved. Around that same period, Erika started stepping into political circles through her longtime friend Tyler Bauer, and that connection eventually led her to Charlie. But here's where things start to overlap in a way people can't ignore. Before meeting Charlie, Erika was dating Cabot Phillips in 2017.
We're very transactional. Nice to meet you, do business, go on.
And that same Cabot was seen playing basketball with Charlie just months before Erika and Charlie went on their first date. That timeline has people raising eyebrows. And when you compare personalities, Charlie didn't even match the type people believe Erika usually went for. On top of that, Charlie reportedly had very little relationship history, which makes the situation stand out even more when placed next to everything else that's been uncovered. So now people are stepping back and asking a bigger question. After everything that's come out about Erika's past connections and shifting timelines, does this really look like a perfectly timed natural meeting? Or does it feel like pieces lining up a little too neatly? Because at this point, the pattern is hard to overlook. And if, hypothetically, Erika was playing a bigger role in all of this, some are wondering if Charlie ever started noticing things didn't fully add up. That's where the conversation gets even more intense, because there are two major topics that Charlie focused on heavily, and people have noticed Erika stayed completely quiet on both. One of them was the push for more transparency around the Epstein files. Charlie openly talked about wanting those documents made public and made it clear he was working on it in different ways. He also started asking questions about areas that rarely get discussed openly, including possible connections tied to broader international networks. That alone brought a lot of attention to what he was doing. But Erika never publicly engaged with that topic, and when people connect that silence to her past work in real estate environments that some claim had indirect links to Epstein-related discussions, it becomes something people start questioning more closely. Then there's the second major issue Charlie spoke about, which was rising global tensions and the possibility of conflict involving Iran. Just months before his passing, Charlie reportedly visited the White House to express concern about escalating actions and warned against going down that path. He had been consistent about this for years.
One of my favorite movies is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And so there's a point in the movie where the mom and the daughter are talking about this one moment before she's about to get married, and she's trying to convince the father to do something that he does not want to do. The mom, she's like, don't worry. She's like, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck.
Saying that another large-scale conflict would be a serious mistake and urging a different approach. Back in 2019, he was already cautioning that a ground operation would lead to long-term consequences. And in 2020, he doubled down, saying the future shouldn't be tied to ongoing conflicts in that region. All of this shows how focused Charlie was on these issues, which is why people now find it noticeable that Erika never publicly addressed either of them. And that silence is what continues to keep the conversation going. As all of this starts coming together, the timeline begins to feel less random and more structured, and that's exactly what people are focusing on right now. It's not just one connection or one moment anymore. It's the way everything overlaps. The relationships, the introductions, the sudden shifts in direction, all happening within a relatively tight window. Because when you really slow it down and look at it piece by piece, Erika's path doesn't look accidental to a lot of observers. Moving through different circles, from entertainment to sports to political spaces, meeting key people along the way, and then eventually crossing paths with Charlie through a chain of connections that now feels very direct. And the Cabot Phillips detail is one of the biggest sticking points. You've got Erika dating Cabot, and then shortly after, Cabot is seen around Charlie, playing basketball together, and then not long after that, Erika and Charlie suddenly connect. That sequence alone has people asking if that introduction was really just coincidence.
Exactly. Because if you picture the physical body, and it's not meant to be manipulative. Some people are like, oh, I'll move the head wherever I want because I'm going to manipulate my husband. That has nothing to do with it. If you picture the physical body, you can't move your head without your neck. You can't. Your head is supported by your whole body. And it determines which way the head will turn, because a wise husband will listen to a wise wife.
Or something that was always going to happen. Because think about it. How often do those kinds of overlaps happen that cleanly? It's not just two separate worlds colliding randomly. It looks like a bridge between those worlds already existed before Erika even stepped into Charlie's life. And then there's Erika's own words from that conference clip, where she describes relationships in a way that sounds more strategic than emotional. That idea of transactional connections keeps coming back into the conversation, because people are now applying it to everything that came before Charlie. If relationships were being viewed through that lens, then it changes how people interpret each step she took. Instead of random dating experiences, some now see it as calculated positioning, building access, building visibility, and moving closer to more influential circles. But here's where things get even more intense, because while Erika's past is being re-examined, Charlie's timeline is also under a microscope. His focus in the years leading up to everything that happened wasn't on relationships or social scenes. It was on major issues that were getting a lot of attention, and that creates a sharp contrast between the two. On one side, you have someone building connections across multiple spaces, and on the other, someone deeply focused on specific topics that were gaining momentum and drawing attention from different directions. So when those two paths suddenly intersect, people naturally start asking questions, not jumping to conclusions, but asking how and why those worlds connected at that exact moment. Because timing matters in situations like this.
American people deserve to have every Epstein file released with no redactions whatsoever, period. And we, the American people, ran on transparency. We deserve to see the entire client list. Every document the government has regarding the Epstein files, we, the American people, should have on an easy-to-access website immediately in a very, very quick fashion. I'm pushing for that both privately and publicly, just so you know.
And the timing here is what keeps standing out. Erika enters Charlie's life, their relationship moves. Quickly, and during that same period, Charlie is becoming more vocal and more active about the topics he cared about. And then there's the shift in public perception. At first, everything looks like a normal relationship story, two people meeting, connecting, and building something together. But once older clips, photos, and timelines start resurfacing, that narrative starts to change. Now people are looking at the same story through a completely different lens. They're comparing what was said publicly to what's now being uncovered and trying to figure out where those two versions don't line up. And it's not just about who Erika dated or where she traveled, it's about consistency. When someone says one thing, but the timeline shows something else, that gap becomes the center of attention. That's why the 5-year claim keeps coming up again and again, because it was such a strong statement. And now that multiple connections have been revealed during that same period, it raises questions about what else might not have been fully explained. And once that doubt is there, it spreads. People start revisiting everything, from interviews to public appearances, looking for small details that might have been overlooked before. Even the smallest moments start getting analyzed. Body language, wording, reactions, all of it. Because when a narrative starts to shift, every detail suddenly feels important. And then there's the silence around certain topics, which continues to stand out. While Charlie was openly speaking on issues that were drawing attention, Erika stayed noticeably quiet on those same subjects.
Epstein, with his little friend Ghislaine and Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell, who was obviously a spy of the Israeli intelligence agencies, that there was something else going on here. Epstein was not some sort of whiz-kid hedge fund manager. Epstein was playing a part. Epstein was a LARPer. Epstein was cast for a specific role, and he played it really well. It's nothing new that if you're in the intel agencies, you want to try and get as much blackmail on powerful people as possible.
Now, silence doesn't always mean anything on its own. But in this context, where everything else is being questioned, it becomes another piece people add to the puzzle. Because the more pieces that don't seem to connect clearly, the more people try to fill in those gaps themselves. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Some. believe this is all just coincidence, a series of unrelated events that happen to line up in a way that looks more dramatic than it really is. Others think there's more structure behind it, more intention, something that hasn't been fully explained yet, and that divide is what's keeping this conversation alive. Because no matter which side someone is on, the timeline itself isn't changing. The connections are still there, the clips still exist, and the questions are still being asked. At the end of the day, this isn't about one moment or one claim anymore. It's about the full picture, a timeline that continues to unfold with new details adding more layers every time something resurfaces. And the more people look into it, the more they realize this story didn't just start when Erika met Charlie. It goes back years, across multiple circles, multiple connections, and multiple moments that are now being re-examined in a completely different way. That's why this situation feels like it's still developing, even now. Because every time a new detail comes out, it doesn't close the conversation. It expands it, and until every part of that timeline is fully understood, people are going to keep watching, keep questioning.
Okay, these were Charlie's perspectives regarding the Iranian war. That is how Charlie felt about neocons. He felt like they were...
And keep trying to piece together what really happened behind the scenes. No war with Iran. That was something Charlie kept repeating over and over, and he didn't slow down. Even as things moved into April 2025, he was still warning that going down that path would be a massive mistake, something that could spiral fast and bring long-term consequences. He wasn't vague about it either. He spoke directly, clearly, and consistently. Then by June 2025, he took it even further and asked his audience directly. He posted a poll asking whether the US should get involved in Israel's conflict with Iran, and the response was overwhelming. Nearly 90% said no. That moment showed just how aligned his audience was with his stance and how strongly people felt about avoiding escalation. So when you step back and look at everything, Charlie's final years were focused on two major things that kept coming up again and again. One was pushing for more transparency around the Epstein files, making sure more information became public. The other was trying to prevent a larger conflict involving Iran. Those were the issues he kept returning to, the ones he spoke about the most. And now, he's no longer here, and people are looking at what's happened since. Only a small portion of those Epstein-related documents have been made public, and global tensions still moved in the direction he warned about. That contrast is what's making people reflect even more on what he was trying to say. At the same time, attention has shifted toward Erika and how she's handling everything now. She has said she's continuing his legacy, but people are noticing something that stands out. She hasn't publicly engaged with the two main issues that defined his final years. And that's where the conversation gets intense again. Because when someone is known for focusing heavily on specific topics, and those topics suddenly disappear from the conversation afterward, people start asking why. Some see it as a personal choice, maybe a shift in direction, or a different approach moving forward. Others feel like it leaves a gap that hasn't been explained yet. Either way, it's something that keeps getting brought up. Then people go back to that earlier statement Erika made about relationships being transactional, and that neck and head comparison, because if she truly saw herself as the one guiding direction behind the scenes, it makes people rethink how that dynamic might have looked during their marriage. Not as a conclusion, but as a question. If she believed in that kind of influence, what role did she actually play when it came to decisions, messaging, and direction? And that's why this story hasn't slowed down at all, because it's not just about what happened in the past, it's about how everything connects to what's happening now. The timeline, the statements, the silence on certain issues, it all keeps people watching closely. Now, I want to hear what you think. Do you believe this is all just a series of coincidences? Or do you think there's more going on behind the scenes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you in the next one.